The deep ocean is an alien world. But incredibly, Earth is not the only place in our solar system that has oceans. Oceans that could support life.
Wherever we find water, we find life.
I want to get data back from a probe and be able to say, it's life, Jim, but not as we know it.
NASA is planning to launch a mission to explore the methane oceans on Titan, Saturn's largest moon. Yep, you heard that right. Oceans of methane, essentially oceans of liquid farts. They're building a drone to fly over the surface and look for signs of life. Can you imagine the freedom of exploring a planet in that way rather than being stuck on 4 wheels on the surface? But most excitingly, they're also planning to build a submarine to dive under the surface of these methane oceans in search of life.
That first picture, are you kidding? That first picture from a submarine, from anybody's submarine on the surface of a sea on another planet in our solar system changes the world. I mean, that's something that none of us have ever seen before. That is true discovery. That is why we do any of this. And that would be awesome. That first picture alone would make this entire mission worth it.
It was back in 2005 that the Cassini-Huygens probe revealed this surface that really did look quite Earth-like. In fact, it revealed these lakes that had an uncanny resemblance to the Great Lakes of North America. But these aren't lakes of water, they're lakes of methane, and at minus 180 degrees Celsius, they're far too cold for any life form with an Earth-like chemistry. So we're looking for life, but not life as we know it.
What I'm really interested in finding is what I call a second genesis of life. Organisms that are clearly not related to any life on Earth.
But is it even possible to have life that can survive on methane rather than water? Methane is incredibly flammable. It's even burnt by hobs so that we can cook food. To find out, researchers at Cornell University took all of the ingredients that we know are present on Titan and mixed them up. Not in a test tube though, this isn't Breaking Bad, but in a supercomputer. Even without water, they were able to make a cell membrane, essentially the outside wall of a cell, the building block for life. Now I know the dream is to see some great big tentacled monster like rising up from the methane oceans. I mean, realistically, we're looking at something like microbial life, but that still will be incredibly cool because it will be completely different to anything we have on Earth. It will be entirely and 100% alien.
We tend to think that life would look like us. You just have to look at the Star Trek movies. All the aliens kind of look like insects and things that we already know. But why not be something completely different? Something that we can't imagine, but something perfectly suited to the conditions that are on Titan.
I grew up when Star Trek was just coming out, and it was an inspiration to me. But the key moment was when I realized that the job I wanted was not Kirk's job, but Spock's job. He's the one with the tricorder. He's the one that's detecting life. And my favorite saying is, it's life, Jim, but not as we know it.
Now, one place we've been looking for life for a long time is the surface of Mars, because although it's barren and dry today, once upon a time, it was covered in an ocean of water. Incredibly, traces of that ocean do still exist today. 4.5 billion years ago, the Martian Ocean covered 19% of the planet's surface and was as deep as the Mediterranean. That was until solar radiation bombarded the planet and stripped it of its protective atmosphere, and the water ended up freezing into ice caps on the poles.
Mars was a water world. It would have been better to characterize it as a water world, whereas now, of course, it's a desert world. But it's that water world that's interesting. That's the world that may have had life, and that's the world we want to investigate.
And crucially, it looked how the Earth looked when life first started on Earth. So if life could have started on Earth, then what's to say that life couldn't have started on Mars? Mars isn't the only place that's getting scientists who are on the hunt for alien life excited. The one I'm really rooting to have life on is Enceladus, which is a tiny moon of my favorite planet, Saturn. It shocked us all when we found out that it had water plumes just pouring out of its south pole. but wasn't just spewing out of one crack on the surface, but 4 huge fissures that were each larger than the Grand Canyon. That amount of water could only mean one thing. Enceladus had to have liquid oceans under its surface. And it's not just Enceladus. High on the list of places that we'd expect to find alien life is Jupiter's moon, Ganymede, the largest moon in the solar system. Scientists managed to discover that there was an ocean 100 kilometers deep, 10 times deeper than any ocean on Earth, that was encircling the entire moon. Each new ocean discovered gives a little bit of a boost to our chances of finding life elsewhere in the solar system. But could any living thing survive the extreme environment of space and other planets lacking protective atmospheres? Creatures on Earth could give us some idea. Meet this little fella. This is a tardigrade, sometimes known as a water bear or a moss piglet. Moss piglet! They're just too cute. These are aquatic, so you'd expect them to die if they weren't in water, but they actually have a very special ability.
As that sample jar starts to dry out, as that specimen starts to dry out, what's cool about these guys is they can survive that extreme desiccation, drying down to like a crispy little booger.
Now, they might look dead, but as any 90s kid knows, a lot can happen if you just add water.
It's not really dead, because when we add more water to them, when environmental conditions are good again, they can come right back alive.
This ingenious hibernation mechanism makes them one of the most resilient creatures on Earth and means they can survive some really extreme and changeable conditions just like those in space. They have even reanimated after years spent frozen in the intense cold of Antarctica, and they can withstand incredible pressure and even survived being shot out of a gun.
It's mind-blowing, dude.
I guess they're like the Han Solo of the microbial world. Like, these things could totally survive being frozen in carbonite as well.
Took them into space, put them on a satellite, opened up the door, set them outside, exposed them to extreme temperatures, vacuum, right? Hot, cold.
Huge radiation. And then when they brought them back to Earth, they did what you're seeing here.
Like a machine, man. Yeah. You add the water to it, they take them up, cells start to do their thing again. And they come back alive. It always blows my, look, I'm an old fat dude and I've looked at these 100 times. Thousands of times, millions maybe.
You're not that
man,
old.
well, and then when I actually look at them under the microscope, every single time I'm like, dang, that's cool, man.
What's clear after finding all of these other oceans elsewhere in the solar system is that we can't claim to be the only blue planet anymore. But I'm more excited for the day that we can say that we know that we're not the only place in the solar system that has life.